Are you tired of getting owned in TF2? Are you starting to look like a free-to-play player? Well, do I have the solution for you?
It's the cheapest loadouts in TF2.
Oh, my voice. I'm just gonna talk normally now. Hello everyone, this is iKonakona, and in this video, I wanted to talk about some of the cheapest loadouts in TF2. Now, what do I mean by cheap? Now, I'm not talking about the absolute best loadout. Everyone has their own personal preferences for what is the best for them. I'm talking about cheap loadouts that seem a little overpowered. They may not necessarily be easy to use. You might have to really practice with the loadout, but once you do, you're going to start to think like, oh my gosh, how is this even in the game? This is so unfair. I'm getting so many kills, or I get away so easily from these guys. This seems a little unfair and a little cheap. I got the idea of making this video because of my brother and the fact that we play fighting games a lot. And in fighting games, there's always these top tier characters who just seem to get overused, and they get overused because they're really cheap. They're easy to use, they have a high damage output. The most classic example, if you guys play Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3, the classic example is Wesker. Wesker is like the cheapest character in the game, or Phoenix is the cheapest character in the game. It's that kind of stuff that I'm talking about, that it seems just like, wow, it's kind of unfair when you get owned by these things. This is going to be a two-part video. In this first part, I'm going to be covering 5 of the classes, and in the second part, I'm going to be covering the remaining 4. So let's get started. So first off is a scout with the soda popper, the pistol, and the fish. Now, the fish, the holy mackerel as the melee weapon, isn't that important. You can swap it out for a bat or something like that. I like to swap it out for a bat sometimes because the fish has kind of a weird hitbox sometimes. What's really important about this loadout is the combination of the soda popper and the pistol. These two together can make a scout almost unstoppable. Now, if you don't know what the soda popper is a scout's primary weapon. It's a charged-based weapon, meaning you can actually charge that meter down there on the bottom right. And you charge that by simply jumping around and running around. That's pretty much it. All you have to do is keep moving, and as long as you keep moving, you're going to be charging that meter. Once that meter is full, crit activates, and basically you get a few seconds of crit shots, which, as a scout, can be really, really powerful. To use this weapon effectively, what I recommend is having pistol as a secondary. What that allows you to do is you run around charging up your meter, and right before you hit the end, right before the crits activates, you switch to your pistol. And when you do that, you can run around with your pistol and your meter will not build up. You will not activate crits. So if you run around and you just right before the end, you switch to your pistol, you can basically save that meter and be able to activate it pretty much any time you want. What's kind of funny is that every time I use this weapon and I run around with my pistol like this, once I activate it like this, I'm switching to the soda popper, I kind of say in my mind, X Factor, because I play Ultimate Marvel, and it's kind of like activating X Factor, because it becomes super, super powerful. Now, to get good with this weapon, what I recommend is practicing with the scattergun first. That's what I did. I actually practiced a lot with the scattergun just to practice my shotgun shots while being a scout. I didn't practice with the force of nature because the force of nature has this kickback. If you were to jump in the air and shoot, you get kicked back, and if you were to go up to a person really close and shoot them, you kick them back. You basically blow them back. And I didn't really like that about the force of nature. It kind of throws off my aim sometimes. That's why I really, really like the soda popper, because it kind of feels like the default scattergun, yet you can activate crits on it. And the reloading is pretty fast. Just having 2 shots is not too much of a disadvantage. Having the pistol as a secondary allows you to defend yourself while you're holding that meter. It's a little more effective than having, let's say, the milk, because if you were to throw the milk, you basically have 2 options now. You can either melee them to death after you throw the milk, or you have to use your crits up on them. So I like to have the pistol, so it allows me to defend myself and run around while holding that meter. Next up is the soldier with the Liberty Launcher, the buff banner, and the escape plan. Now, it was pretty tough trying to decide which was the cheapest rocket launcher for the soldier. It was a close one between either the Liberty Launcher or the direct hit, because both of them have very fast moving rockets, and I think that's pretty cheap about the soldier, is having rockets that move fast. I decided to go with the Liberty Launcher because it's still a fast-moving rocket, yet it maintains its sort of blast radius. Maybe it has a smaller blast radius, I'm not really exactly sure, but it's not as small as the direct hit. With the direct hit, just like the name implies, you have to get a direct hit to really do any damage. This blast radius of it is so small. With this, it's a little bit bigger, yet it still has really fast rockets. So you don't have to have the perfect aim, but because of the fast rockets, pretty much where you're going to shoot, that's where the rockets are going to go. Now the main downside of this rocket launcher is that it only has 3 rockets instead of the standard 4. But I don't think this is too much of a downside in pub matches, because in pubs, I don't see a lot of people rocket jumping. And I think if you were to rocket jump, then I think 4 rockets is really good to have, because you use 1 for rocket jumping, and then you use 3 for actually dealing out damage. With the Liberty Launcher on a public server, you're not going to see too much rocket jumping. Like here, I'm not really doing a lot of rocket jumping. Yet I'm still being pretty effective. I can take out sentries at long range like this, and the rockets are really fast, so they go exactly where I'm aiming them. Now, mini crits with the buff banner can be a little cheap as well. A lot of people like to save the buff banner for when their teammates are nearby, and that makes sense. You want to give your teammates some extra damage boost, but you can also use the buff banner by yourself in sticky situations where you just kind of need that extra damage. You can see here, I'm blowing the horn, no one's really near me, and I'm able to take out people, at least protect myself from dying. Oh, there, I just killed myself. Before the Pyro update, the Equalizer had 2 really good traits. Whenever you're damaged a lot, you would have high run speed and also high damage output if you were to actually hit someone. So it was kind of an overpowered weapon, and they made the change after the Pyro update. They actually split the Equalizer up into the Equalizer, which gives you a damage boost, and the Escape Plan, which gives you the speed boost. I personally like the Escape Plan because I actually like escaping sticky situations when I need to, rather than having high damage. Because let's say you're outnumbered, you may be able to get 1 person before you die if you had the Equalizer. But if you have the Escape Plan like this, you can easily run away, get full health, and go back to the battle. Next is the Pyro with the Phlogistinator, the Scorch Shot, and the Extinguisher. Now, before the Pyro update, the Phlogistinator was a very overpowered weapon. No doubt about it, this thing was just way too overpowered. The fact that you can get full buff or full health and just charge in with crits was just insane. It was like the only weapon you saw out there. After the Pyro update, they changed it so that you don't get that much of a health boost, so it's actually okay right now. But you can actually still build up your rage meter by just lighting people on fire. I don't know if this was by design, where you would build your rage meter by inflicting any sort of fire damage, but it actually sort of works when you have the Scorch Shot or the Flare Gun equipped. Any kind of fire damage you do with that actually helps build your rage meter, so you can actually just sit back near your teammates, fire some shots with a Scorch Shot, get a few hits, and you'll just, if you're hitting them, you're going to be building up that rage meter without having to get close to them. Once you do that enough, just charge in there with the Phlogistinator. Also, the Phlogistinator, it has kind of a weird hitbox or a weird kind of particle effect in front of it. It's not like the Flamethrower, where the Flamethrower kind of like waves in the air. This one is kind of like a beam that shoots out, so it's a little confusing to the person even using the Phlogistinator, but also it's confusing to the person getting burned by this, because it looks weird, and so I'm not really sure how the hitbox really works on this. Now, the Scorch Shot is kind of an unusual weapon as well. It's kind of like the Flare Gun in that you have to shoot, and there is a slight arc to the shots. And oh my gosh, Prof. Snape, why don't you? I don't know how I didn't get him. But yeah, the Scorch Shot is kind of an unusual weapon. The blast radius of the Scorch Shot is actually increased from the Flare Gun, so even though it does less damage, you will probably get more hits with it. I've noticed that. Even from long range, I'm shooting the Scorch Shot, and I'm still getting hits, which is kind of weird. Now, because I get those hits at long range, I'm building up that meter for Phlogistinator, so any kind of Flare Gun or Scorch Shot plus the Phlogistinator is a really good combination. And of course, there's the Extinguisher. If you get close enough and you either, run out of fire, or, you just want to rush them down and have some fun, as long as they're on fire, the Extinguisher is going to do a hell of a lot of damage. The Demo Man is next with the Lock and Load, the Splendid Shield, and the Eyelander. Now in this match I was actually using the Eyelander, but sometimes I like to use a Nessie's 9-iron. Same thing, but I kind of like the golf club instead of the huge sword. Now the Lock and Load is a very tricky weapon to master. most of the time I can't hit a damn thing with it because, you know, if you don't hit it's like a direct hit. If you don't hit the person directly, you're not going to do any damage. The round actually just disappears. So you have to get direct hits with this weapon. But if you do get direct hits, this thing is a super, super powerful weapon. And you combine that with random crits or even a Kritzkrieg, and you can clear an area. Like if the enemy is bunching around, this is the perfect opportunity for the lock and load. Now this weapon is not really that useful in large maps like 5 CP maps. I've noticed that whenever I play 5 CP maps, it's actually very tricky to use this weapon. You may get a few kills here and there, but in 5 CP maps, people are not bunched up as much. If you've ever played Steel, the map Steel, this weapon works wonders on Steel, especially on the last point of Steel. If you're defending, they all have to stand on that last point, and the last point takes forever to cap. So they're stuck on the point there, and you can just shoot at them all day with the lock and load and get so many hits, do so much damage. Oh, here's the crits right here. Luckily, this medic had a lock and load, so it pops a crits for me. I'm desperately trying to find someone to hit. I'm really trying to hit these guys. I don't know if that hit. I don't know if that was a crits. I don't know. It was really close. It just ended. But you can see how much damage it does, and you know the blast radius for this is very, very big. So if the enemy is bunched up, like around the cart or around the point or something like that, this thing is going to do damage to not only the person that you hit, but to everyone around. Swapping out the Sticky Bomb Launcher for the Splendid Shield and Eyelander combo was a bit tough to do at first, I will admit. I mean, let's face it, Demo Man is kind of known for having that Sticky Bomb Launcher, being able to set up traps pretty much all over the place and detonate them whenever he wants to. That's kind of the Demo Man's thing. But having to give that up for a close quarters combat mechanic was a bit tough. But I think it was worth it because the Splendid Shield is such an awesome weapon. Now, it's not only a weapon, you can use it to charge people as well, but you can also use it to get away from sticky situations. If you're ever in a situation where you run out of ammo or you just can't take on the enemy by yourself, you can always use the Splendid Shield to charge out of there very quickly, and most of the time they won't be able to hit you. There's very few things that can actually chase you down, or maybe they'll get lucky with a random shot. By the way, here I actually use a Splendid Shield. Boom! I was lucky because I was in my mind. I was like, I hope I don't miss because if I had missed, I would have went off the cliff myself. So I was really lucky to hit that engineer. Now, since this is not a conventional loadout for the Demo Man, it can be a little tough to master. I mean, the lock and load by itself is a really, really tough weapon to use because you have to go for direct hits. The grenades lob in an arc, so that's not really like a direct hit. You kind of have to account for that. And the grenades, they're not super fast. They're not instantaneous. They kind of take a while to go places. So it can be hard to get used to that. The Splendid Shield might also be hard to get used to because not many people use it to escape. Or at least I haven't seen a lot of people use that Splendid Shield to escape. I usually see them kind of go on a kamikaze suicide mission with the Splendid Shield, hoping for a crit kill. But you can see here, I use it to escape a lot, just in case. If I feel unsafe, I always have a safe way out. The last class for this video is the Heavy, with a pretty standard loadout: the minigun, the sandwich, and the gloves of running urgency. This is a pretty standard loadout that I think all of us have tried, and it's pretty much the best. Now, unfortunately, over the months, they have kind of been nerfing what I think was the best heavy weapon, which was the Tomislav. When it first came out, I thought that weapon was it was godlike. It was so good. It made the Heavy so cheap. But, over patches, and so they started to nerf that weapon, and unfortunately, it's not as good as it used to be when it first came out. And so a lot of people have been reverting back to the standard minigun. Natasha, slowing someone down is not worth it. I'd rather kill them fast because, if your aim is pretty good, you don't have to slow down people. And the Brass Beast, you slow down yourself. You're making yourself a target for enemy snipers and spies. So there's really no point in using the Brass Beast. So right now, the default minigun is probably the best minigun to use. Now the Sandwich has changed a bit since its initial release. You can no longer drop it for yourself and use it as kind of like a self-health pack. If you're heavy with a Sandwich, you have to eat it. You have to actually stop and do the eating animation, the nom 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 thing. It's okay, I guess, and you get full health back, so that's really, really good. But most heavies back then, when it wasn't patched, just dropped him for himself because it was a really fast way of getting health back. But now, if you ever want to drop it, if you ever want to use it in that way. You can't. And so it kind of forces you to drop it for your teammates, which is kind of a good thing. Most of the time, actually a lot of times before, the heavy didn't drop it for their teammates. By the way, I think this is a Dead Ringer spy, and I'm trying to like corner him in that corner. Like I can feel him in the corner, but I think he got out, so that's close. But yeah, the sandwich, pretty cheap way of getting health back, especially if there's no health around. And if you're with a medic who's damaged a little bit, just pop out the sandwich, give it to him, and you guys can just keep on going. Heavy medic combination is really powerful. The Gloves of Running Urgency got a tweak in the Pyro update in that you no longer take any damage when you have the gloves out. Before you had the gloves out, I think you would take about 6 damage per second as you had the gloves out, but you did get to run fast, and it allowed the heavy to escape dangerous situations, which made it really, really powerful. You still get the speed now after the update, but you no longer get hurt by it. Instead, you are marked for death for 3 seconds after you had the gloves out. And so, you take mini crits, that is kind of a downside. I don't know. I don't know if it's any worse, because I've been playing with the Gloves and Running Urgency, and I don't really see that big of a difference anymore. I usually have a medic on me anyway as the heavy, because heavy medic combos are really powerful. So having the gloves out with this new system isn't too bad. So those are my cheapest loadouts for 5 of the TF2 classes. I'm going to be doing the remaining 4 in the part 2 of this video. Please let me know what you think. Please leave some comments below. Thank you for watching, and have a nice day.